Do you have like a true north that you're trying to express about stuff? Like a view of life you're trying to express?
No. We actually smoked weed out of a giant glass pipe that you had in your car.
I'm in. And tell the kid, great. Are we doing acting now?
Are we telling each other how we met each other? Let's reminisce.
Here we go.
Are we being forced to reminisce? Is this forced reminiscing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's
to see you.
Good to see you, Jason.
I always knew we'd end up here.
I did too.
Actors on actors.
Actors on actors from the first time we met.
27 years ago?
27 years ago. I was 16 or 17 when we shot the pilot of Freaks and Geeks. How old were you? A few years, 19, 18, 19?
I was 18 or 19, but it's crazy to think about that.
It was a really long time ago.
I, in preparation for this, was thinking about
Oh no.
Yeah, no, the first time we bonded.
Okay.
I have a very clear idea of the moment for me that it was.
What was
Do you?
You say yours first.
Okay.
Maybe it's the same one.
While we were shooting the pilot,
Mm-hmm.
The Matrix came out.
Oh, yes. I remember. I wrote that down on my phone.
You did?
I wrote
Yeah.
down The Matrix.
And we didn't know each other that well.
No.
We didn't know anybody else that well. We were all kind of just meeting each other.
Yes.
And all we kind of knew is that you and I both like to smoke weed.
Yes. And a side note to The Matrix coming out is this Bill Pope, who's the cinematographer of The Matrix, was shooting our pilot.
That's right.
And the whole marketing campaign for The Matrix was, what is The Matrix? And we'd always go to Bill and be like, what is The Matrix?
Yeah.
And he would tell us. But it actually came out the day the pilot wrapped.
Holy shit.
So in my head, the whole pilot was just a march to The Matrix being released.
100%.
Yeah.
And then we rolled giant joints.
Yeah.
And we drove to the movie theater,
Yeah.
and we saw The Matrix together.
We actually smoked weed out of a giant glass pipe that you had in your car, like a huge, like a comically large, like dragon-shaped glass pipe.
I think I made that pipe.
Yeah.
Because I had graduated high school with the assumption that you just start doing professional acting.
Exactly.
And then there was like a year where I was just living at my parents' house.
Glass blowing.
Yes, well, yeah. Anyway, so we watched The Matrix.
We did.
And I remember coming out of that movie, like legitimately feeling like something had changed.
Oh, for sure.
Like, it was a very inspiring
Oh,
thing.
yeah. It was one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
It was like our Star Wars. Like,
Totally.
I feel like. Yeah.
I think you and I started like writing harder after that.
Yes. And we would watch The Matrix over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until the bong exploded. Until that glass bong exploded.
Yeah. And then we went to Six Flags. I think we saw The Matrix and then went to Six Flags Magic Mountain together, maybe, in that same wonderful day.
What are we doing? Now we just go home after work.
We should have done all that again. It was a fun day.
I do think about that period a lot as like something you can never get back. We had the naivety of youth, I think.
Oh, yes.
Like we didn't really know how to do it. And like you, me, and the gang would like get together at my apartment and rehearse the
scenes, yeah. I
On
still do that
weekends.
sometimes with people.
You do?
Do you
have
ever
them
do
come over
that?
and rehearse? No, I've never had them come over and rehearse.
I remember honestly having no fucking clue what I was doing at all. And I remember meeting you and you like had thoughts about the craft of acting, which to me at the time was like, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like you were in plays and stuff like that. Like you had gone to acting school, like, and you had been coached by acting professionals and you had like a language and vernacular around acting. And I remember you were the first person, you were like the first like serious actor I ever talked to. And I remember talking to you and being like, holy shit, like he really has a lot of like different ways at this and a lot of again, all I had was like memorize the lines and try to say them in a way that it sounds remotely realistic and natural. And that was literally it. And then I realized everyone else on the show was like creating a whole character and stuff, which was like so not on my level of ability at the time we did the show.
But don't you think they're all like with some distance from it all, like acting? It's all just tricks so that when they say action, you feel comfortable?
I think so. I don't know. But I don't even think it matters. I don't even know if that, because I've actually found that even if I feel comfortable, it doesn't necessarily have any bearing on
if you're going to do well,
on if it's good. Right. Yeah. And that is also, I mean, it's almost like the longer I act, the less I understand it in some ways, honestly, and the more confusing a thing it is. And I'll also act with like children who are amazing, who literally don't know what the scene is about, and they're incredible. And I'll be like, am I working too hard? Am I thinking about it too much? It's like it's a fascinating thing to see. And I also sometimes look back at when I did know nothing about it and think that I don't think I'm better, but I think in some ways I look at the choices I made and they're more surprising at times than maybe things I would do now at times, you know?
People always ask, like, what would older you say to younger you?
Yeah.
I think the opposite is more important for
Oh
me
yeah,
at this
for
age,
sure.
right? Like, don't forget the guys who felt like, why can't I make this movie?
Yeah.
Why can't I end it with a Dracula puppet musical? Why
Yeah.
can't we do this whole movie about trying to get booze?
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? Like, there was a naivety that we had at that point of like, why not? Who's gonna stop us?
No, I for sure have let like pragmatism
Yeah.
invade my thinking in many ways, and you get too realistic about things, and you're like, "What's gonna work?" Instead of yeah, like what sounds fun in the moment.
The most strategic decisions I made have been the worst ones. I remember sitting in a room after, like, when things were going really well with all of our movies, and, like, I was in one of the rooms, like, in the studio.
Yeah,
They had a big board with my name and my co-star's name, and they had, like, a pointer. I remember this might just be in my head, but I think they had a long pointer.
It sounds cool.
Yeah, and there was a graph on it, and they were like, "With your name and this title on this release date, we can expect this amount of money." And we
Whoa,
hadn't made the movie yet.
that's really crazy.
And I remember thinking like, "Oh, we're fucked."
Oh, this is bad.
Wait, no one
bad for
has
all
an
of us.
idea about the movie yet.
No, it's hard to not get caught up in that stuff, and it is because also no one knows anything, and that's like the
Yeah.
fun. That's a
That's
fun
the
part
secret,
of
right?
it's fun part about what we do for a living. It's
Yeah.
like you don't. No one really knows, and it's a job without real like parameters. I think in a lot of ways, which is
Totally.
also what's fun about it. You know.
Do you have like a true north that you're trying to express about stuff, like a view of life you're trying to express?
No.
Yeah, no, I get
it. Sometimes,
Yeah.
I'd say some things I've made eventually like have an idea that they are trying to get across is something I believe. But honestly, like I I mostly start thinking of an idea as like I think of like the energy of it and the experience of the actual like scenes of it. And that's what becomes exciting to me. And then I will make a thing that like allows me to do those types of scenes kind of, you know? Where do your ideas come from? Where do your ideas
Yeah.
come from now, Jason?
I was gonna jump into the studio off what you said, but I'll answer your question first. I don't write very often because I don't love it. I don't know if you love writing.
I do like writing.
Yeah, I think of an idea that is kind of usually about something I'm thinking about or something that I'm dealing with in my life, and then I try really hard not to write it. But if it keeps nagging at me, I'm like, this is something I'll write.
Yeah, me and Evan talk about like a Darwinistic approach to our
Yes.
ideas often, and like the ideas that stick around are the good ideas.
I think so, because actually, it's not that hard to think of ideas.
No, there's
Like
lots of
they
ideas.
come a lot,
Yeah.
but the thing that you're gonna say, because like the thing that you're gonna say, okay, for 2 years, I'm gonna push a boulder up a hill.
Yeah,
That is this thing. I think I get a little indecisive about committing to one. Like,
for sure.
right? Like, let's go, let's do it.
But and then every once in a while, an idea will come, and I won't be able to stop myself from working on it.
That's it,
and,
right?
and I won't be able to stop myself from writing on it. And I'll find when I just have 20 minutes with nothing to do, instead of like zoning out, I will like feel compelled to go to my computer and like write ideas for this thing, you know?
Yeah.
I used to think about it less, and I do think the older I get, the more I think I've learned thinking of therapy in your show. One of the biggest revelations I've had is that like my thoughts are not always helpful. And I come from a place in my life where my thoughts I feel like were my greatest tool and my greatest asset. And my thoughts gave me so much success and opened so many doors for me and gave me a life that was so beyond anything I could have hoped. And then I reached a point where I was also having thoughts that I realized were incredibly counterproductive to my
Yeah.
day-to-day happiness and my productivity. And it took me, and I think I'm still in the process of it, like along a current process that I'm in is learning that not all my thoughts are helpful to me. And sometimes I am overthinking things in a way that is extremely detrimental to my creativity and to just my day-to-day functionality
Yeah.
as a person, you know.
Dude,
what
I
mean?
relate. I had a similar kind of corollary thing in my early 30s where, Because I think that to make any of it happen requires this kind of delusional belief in yourself, and then also kind of a head down, like, I'm gonna make this happen, and you're like grasping everything. You don't know what's the right thing, but like if a door opens, you kind of go through it. And I realized at 33, like the same brain that had gotten me like on paper, like things are looking really good. I was like, but you haven't stopped and thought about if you like this or like why you're doing.
Never do that.
Yeah. Or if you're happy, like God.
Never think about that.
The question of if you're happy is like a really scary one. And I had to do a big crank of the throttle of just like, okay, slow down now.
Yeah.
Like it's not all gonna disappear. Now like be thoughtful about what you want to make and decide what you want the next period of your life to look like.
And did it work?
Yeah, I think so. It was a really scary period because you make a decision that is counter to what people like about you.
Yeah.
And then you have to go back to square one of you being the only person who believes it.
Yeah.
And it felt like starting from scratch. But I was telling you outside, like you gave me a piece of advice for a script that I'm working on now that like really stuck with me. I didn't feel like I was smart enough to write this thing because we had thought of it years and years ago. And I was talking to you about it and you said, no, we're the age now where you write stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of this thing is like starting to realize, okay, now let's like try to up the degree of difficulty.
Aging is weird in many ways, but acknowledging that your taste has changed and your sensibilities have changed and the things that excite you and express what it is you're trying to do are very different than what they used to be. And I think that was a scary thing for me and Evan to even acknowledge. It was like, oh, we don't want to make stuff about like dumb teenagers anymore.
Right, or being afraid of girls.
Yeah,
that was my thing. It's like a guy is like, oh God, I hope she likes me.
Yeah.
Like I'm like 6'4".
I know. We did
Super
that,
successful.
We did that forever. But it took us a long time to find what felt like our like a definitive output could be for us at this age. Like, I think it's been like a decade since me and Evan wrote and directed and produced a thing that I was also in. And it took us like a transition period, I think, from our 30s into our 40s, where we were like, what is that? And we were working on other stuff the whole time, but it wasn't like our stuff, you know, and it wasn't like this is who we are now, you know, and I think because we were many different things, and it took us a long time, I think, to realize like what we should settle on as kind of that idea, you know.
For someone who doesn't know Evan, you guys met in high school or before?
Before we were 12 or 13 when we met in bar mitzvah class.
Oh, shit. And you wrote Superbad in high school.
Yeah, we started writing it in high school. We finished it. We finished like during Freaks and Geeks. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I rember we did a table read.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it was great. It was very encouraging.
Yeah.
Me and you read the main guys.
That's right. You must be so proud that like you and a friend who met at that age stuck it out and believed in each other and made it to like this height.
Yeah, and I have so many friends who were a part of teams that have broken up as well, you know? And so the fact that we still work together and still get along and like actually like to be around each other and
It's
like
incredible.
see each other socially, go on vacations together and stuff. Like we actually like each other, which I think is not lost on us. And we like are both very appreciative of it. And I could never do this alone. You know what I mean? Like I need someone to always be there to like bounce ideas off of and to support me and to tell me it's a good idea. And because Evan, like all the self-doubt I have, Evan has none of it, which is great, you know what I mean? And like whenever I'm like, is this a good idea? He's like, it's the greatest idea ever. And like when I'm like, are we making a mistake? He's like, of course we're not. Like, which is it's exactly what I need, you know?
You don't project as someone who has self-doubt.
I do. I have a lot of it.
I was gonna bring it today. I found I moved recently, and I was like moving the few items I've kept, you know, from the journey, and there was a Vanity Fair that we did.
Yeah, we were all in it.
We were all in it. And inside, they did a big group photo, but inside they profiled each one of us with like a cool photo, and they gave each of us a nickname. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay, it was really crazy because I didn't remember this either. And I open it up. So this is
Vanity Fair does that, where it's like the new kid.
yeah, yes.
The auteur.
Yes.
Yes.
You were the auteur.
Hey, that's cool.
And I was the loner.
Hey,
And I was
there you
like,
go.
yeah, it was like
It's
15
true.
years ago. They kind of spotted our types.
They do.
Yeah.
Graydon Carter knew.
It's kind of interesting, right?
It's really weird. That's so interesting. What was Paul Rudd?
It's handsome.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Perpetually good looking.
Always handsome. Paul's a medical marvel.
It's really amazing.
Yeah. Do you and Evan have the same taste, or is it like a Venn diagram?
It's close enough that we never really have had a major conflict over what it is we want to work on. Like I'd say like in our personal lives, it's a little different. Like the things we watch and enjoy, it's a little different. But for us to want to make something, we both have to really want to make it.
Yeah.
And there's never been a thing that one of us really wants to make and the other doesn't want to make at all.
Yeah.
And I could imagine that would be a very difficult thing to navigate for us, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because, and thank God that hasn't happened. So our taste is close enough that we haven't had like any conflict over what we want to spend our huge amounts of time and energy doing.
And probably where it's different comes in handy at like when you're making some big decisions.
Yeah, where it's also just like we just do different things with our free time, and so like there's different things we're absorbing, which is helpful.
Yeah.
Like he reads more than I do, and I watch more horror movies than he does. I can define it like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that granular. I had an idea actually that I was going to run by you for the scene.
Buddy, we're good on ideas, thanks. So, but I'll see you at Charlize's party, right?
Yeah, of course. I'll see you there.
Can I ask you about the studio? Because I was thinking about what you were saying about earlier. The energy of something is like the first thing you think of.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you really notice that in the studio, this energy that kind of goes through it. It felt to me like a mix. I hope that this comes across right. As Birdman meets Curb.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were going for.
It's like all of the awkwardness and reality of Curb, but like set to fucking a rhythm. Yeah.
A rhythm, yeah. I wanted it to be fast. Like that was a word I would use a lot. Is like I wanted it to be propulsive, and I thought a lot about like what do I want to do all day? Like what do I like to do? What I don't love to do is like insert shots, like establishing shots, and I don't love like sitting on an Apple box and doing off camera for hours. And I don't love kind of going around the room and everyone gets their shot, and I don't love doing scenes that sort of feel like, they're like getting to the next scene and like serving some storyline that's like will pay off in a few episodes. Like I thought like I love like high stakes, intense, like scenes where everyone wants to like grab each other and shake each other and it's like, and so that was like really what, as we were writing the show, those were like the first conversations we were having, was just like, how do we infuse every scene so it's like I'm never on set feeling like I'm doing shoe leather and I'm only doing scenes that are like really funny scenes, because I also just want it to be funny. Like I really want it to be funny, and so that was like exactly what we talked about.
It's like you only did the scenes that people like.
Yeah, that was all I wanted to do.
There's so much stuff where you're like, we could probably cut that. Like,
nothing we shot was not in the show.
I bet.
Literally, I think one like 30-second thing in the whole series that was filmed was not in the show. But it was out of like a very personal desire to like work in a certain way that I found engaging, and it was very like selfish in a lot of ways, because it was like a lot of it was designed around like not only like an idea we had, but like a very specific way to execute that idea that was incredibly conducive to just how me and Evan too like personally wanted to work. That was almost like the boldest experiment of the whole thing to us, was like, how do we, like, what if we did this in a way that like for us every day it was like hyper engaging and like hyper challenging and hyper focused, and different than anything we'd ever done because we're brought up with so much of this like several cameras, and I also love doing that. And and when I'm with improvisational like I do Platonic with Rose Byrne, who's like one of the funniest people ever, and when we're doing that, it's so fun. But we were like, what if we try something that's sort of the complete opposite of that, basically?
Is Platonic shot like how we did those movies?
Yeah, exactly like that. I mean, it's Nick, and it's great. And honestly, if I wasn't also doing that, I probably would have been less willing to take like this opposite direction with the studio in some ways, because like in my life I knew I was like, oh, I have an opportunity to do like riffy improv multi-camera comedy basically, and I love it. But what would also be fun is if I was doing something that felt incredibly different from that.
Well, because I think that with the riffy stuff, which I love also, and
do you guys improvise a lot on the show?
we improvise when it makes sense.
Yeah.
Our show's also this like kind of mix of comedy and drama.
It really is.
Like the thing that I've actually found most interesting, I love talking about acting.
Please.
But
not as much as some.
All those improv skills that we learned for comedy and like got pretty damn good at, turned out to really apply to dramatic scenes also.
For sure.
Yeah.
Even more so.
I think so.
Yeah.
And
it's easier because it's just you just aren't trying to make jokes.
Yeah, and you're not trying to prove that you're clever.
Yeah.
It's more about being present and noticing that like if Harrison Ford is looking at you funny, suddenly you say like, why are you looking at me like that?
Yeah.
And you're in this weird little pocket.
Yeah.
And so I think the show I would best describe with Shrinking, the writers are incredible. They give us like a really good treasure map.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking detailed.
Yeah.
But then you're dropped into the treasure map and it's 3-dimensional and you're like, oh, but there's an interesting little thing over here.
We both care about our patients so much. And yes, you might argue I don't have enough boundaries.
You don't have any boundaries.
Well, maybe you have too damn many.
Where did the idea come from for the show?
Bill and Brett came to me and said that they had separate ideas for a show about therapy and that they decided to combine them. And then they pitched it to me, basically, do you want to write a show about a guy having a nervous breakdown because his wife has died, who's continuing to practice therapy, but his patients don't know about it?
Oh, that's great.
And they pitched it with the comedy and the drama. Like, the comedy is going to be that he's having a nervous breakdown and people don't know.
Yeah.
And the drama is going to be like, we're going to see a guy at rock bottom.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was like the end of an M. Night Shyamalan movie where I was like, this is what the past 10 years of figuring stuff out and gathering different skills has been about. Like, I'm definitely not afraid of the comedy.
No.
And I'm not afraid of the drama.
Yeah.
And now I like know how to do both of those things without feeling like a fraud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or like it's like when you used to watch like the comedies from the 90s and there's like that one serious scene at the end and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't
This
work.
guy's gonna try that?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel like that.
No.
At all. Yeah, it's like so seamless.
Thanks, man.
No problem. I really loved it. How does it work as you're shooting it? Like, you're one of the creators of the show. So do you kind of have how do all those dynamics work? Are you involved Are you involved in the breaking of the arcs for the season and all that stuff?
I get the way it works because we don't have all the scripts done when we're shooting.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talk it all through at the beginning, and then as we're shooting, I get a draft of the script.
Okay.
After they have a writer's draft.
Yeah.
And I give my notes on it, and then they do that, and same with the cuts. But I'd say mostly it's like I'll adjust my stuff. Mostly it's on set.
Yeah.
Because we have so much experience, I think, in real time from those movies that were a little more loosely planned of like, oh, this isn't working.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Real-time decision making.
Yeah, real time, like, uh-oh. If ever that happens, that's when we kind of kick in the improv skills. But otherwise, like
and
the writing.
You shoot with several cameras?
Yeah. You shoot with 3.
Whoa. See, that's like, to me, it's like 1 or 3 or 4. Like, that's totally where I've gone with it.
Yeah.
Is like 3's way, like, do that.
Yeah.
Because then you could actually do it and you can focus on the life of the scene rather than anything other than that.
Yes, and you don't have somebody writing down the good stuff on that shot so you can
Exactly.
recreate it. Yeah, and like Jessica Williams is
She's
like,
so great.
She's so great. Like when I did I Love You Man with Rudd, there was like a comfortability, and that's how I feel with Jessica. like neither of us are gonna let each other look super dumb, even if one of us does something super dumb. So then the other person just like meets you with
They'll go
dumbness.
with it.
Yeah, it's like very safe environment. And honestly, the thing we discovered, I think this is really true of your show too, but the thing we discovered in season 1 of Shrinking was that every one of those actors could be the lead in their own show.
Yeah.
And so then what happened in season 2 was it was less about one guy pulling himself out of a hole.
Yeah.
And then it became season 2 about like kind of like
It was more
fractals.
ensemble-y.
It was
Yeah.
ensemble and it's everybody dealing with issues that will end up relating to each other of
yeah.
like forgiveness.
I win. You go see your army, buddy.
Are you crazy? I'm good at this now.
Oh, are you? None of that really matters when you're about to get jimmied.
Does the same person direct the whole show?
No.
That's the one thing I had never really done. Pam and Tommy, I think, was the first thing since Freaks and Geeks or like Undeclared that I had acted in as a television show. And I really honestly struggled with having a lot of different
directors?
Yeah, like it really fucked with me. I had a hard time with it.
No, I get
honestly.
it. There's a moving targets, and sometimes
Yeah.
you're shooting like you're block shooting like, for location, so you're shooting like
Yeah, like
a few
different directors will come in and swap
Yeah.
out throughout the day.
Yeah, so that happens occasionally, but I think we have a really cohesive unit up top with Bill Lawrence, who's
Is he like on set all day?
he's working on a bunch of shows, but he's in the writer's room
Yeah.
for everything.
Yeah.
And Neil Goldman, our showrunner, and Brett Goldstein too. It's like every director's super prepped.
Yeah.
By now we're on season 3, so every director has seen the show.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's much harder in season 1 when people are all trying to guess what the tone is.
Yeah, no one's watched it yet. That
No
was
one's
happening.
watched it.
Yeah.
Yes, and the actors haven't watched it yet. Like
No.
everyone is trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But luckily it came together and worked. And
Yeah, I wouldn't have known
Yeah.
watching it. Yeah.
but that is an interesting thing. Is like because you do all the jobs. I don't think anyone knows until you get into editing what the show is.
Not on our show.
Right. Yeah. We were like, there were some real because it's a show about grief,
Yeah.
and we wanted to honor that, and we wanted to like
Yeah.
people are really going through this shit in the
Yeah.
world. And so you want to be sure that you're honoring all of that stuff. You also want it to be funny.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of like turning the dials of how bad can you make him as a therapist?
Yeah.
Like how far can you cross the line? How far can you cross the line of my breakdown in season 1 of like, I'm with sex workers while my daughter is sleeping upstairs.
I
Like,
know. I was explaining it to Laura, my wife, as we were watching it because she was kind of coming in and out, and she was like, "Is he doing cocaine and sleeping with prostitutes?" I was like, "She was like, I did not think this show went there." I was like, "Oh, it goes there."
yeah. Well, you know what I told him at the beginning? You've known me a long time,
Yeah.
so you'll probably agree. Like if you were directing me, I was like, guys, you can have him do as much bad stuff as you want.
It'll be okay.
People are gonna think like, oh, I hope he's
Yeah.
okay.
I know. It's unfortunately never a problem.
No,
It's
it's like
sympathy.
Yes, spend the currency.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so funny.
It's crazy. I mean, the craziest thing was getting Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I would imagine.
One could argue that the joke I made about booping him could complicate things at trial.
What were your exact words again?
Off the cliff, bash his brains, eat them up.
How did you get Harrison Ford?
We got Harrison Ford because Harrison Ford is the kind of person you make an offer to so that for 3 days you can say, we've made an offer to Harrison
exactly.
Ford.
Yeah.
And then you'll pick the real
Sounds
guy.
cool in a restaurant. Yeah.
Sounds super cool. He didn't know, I think, anything about me.
Yeah.
And so he asked, like, can I see some of his work? And they sent him, Brett Goldstein went and met with him, and they had a really nice meeting. And then they sent him End of the Tour and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Then apparently Bill Lawrence got a text that said, I'm in, and tell the kid, great dick.
All you need. Even if he was out, that would be.
Yeah, that's right.
I would take that.
Listen to me, because I will never, ever. You lame ass idiot!
How about your cameos? Were those just phone calls? Is that like the people you've amassed throughout this career?
No, not at all. A lot of them I'd never met.
Really?
Ever. I'd never met. I'd say like half of them were people I did not know at all.
Oh my God.
Half were people that we did know.
I was watching So Jealous of your friend group.
No, those are not. I wish. If those were my friends, that would be amazing.
I was like, this
did-
fucking guy
No,
did it.
I
He
did
fucking
not.
did
I
it.
did not do it. I know some of those people, but not all those people. Because also, we didn't only want people that are like strictly associated with us. You know what I mean? We wanted people that you haven't seen us with before. So, but no, Martin Scorsese, we just sent it to his manager. Like, and Ron
Wow.
Howard I'd met in passing. I'd met Zoe Kravitz once or twice.
I did meet Martin Scorsese once. I think you'll enjoy the story. I met him at the Golden Globes, and we peed next to each other at the urinals.
Great.
But I had the kids one,
And he had the adult
tall
one.
one. He had the tall one. So everything about it was
just
backwards.
way off.
That was a great memory.
He's a little guy. He's
Yeah.
small.
Were you intimidated to direct
Yes.
people like that?
Oh, it was the worst thing in the whole world. Yeah, it was so scary, and we were shooting the show in such a specific way that, like, I was so nervous that it would just be, like, creatively rejected
Yeah.
by the people we were working with, you know what I mean?
I'm so interested to hear that you get nervous.
Yeah. Really nervous.
Really?
Really nervous. The character is me in, like, many,
Right.
many, many ways. And, like, it's literally this conversation. Like the crux of the character is that, like, he doesn't want to let down his idols, basically, and
Yeah.
let down the people that he respects. And that is something that, like, I'm constantly finding is one of the biggest things that I'm navigating is, like, This Is the End was, like, one of the first times where, like, I convinced all my friends to come do this thing. We had some success, so, like, it wasn't like, you know, they were doing us favors to, like, get going anymore. It was
Yeah.
like they were signing on to a thing that hopefully was really good, and they
Yeah.
would be proud to be a part of it, and they would look back and be like, yeah, that's, like, a good thing I did. Whenever I get anyone I know or don't know or look up to come do a thing that we're doing, I'm so aware of how upset I'll be if it's bad or it's
Yeah.
viewed as bad or they think it's bad or and if they're associated with something that the narrative of it is that it's not up to the level of work that they would hope to be associated
And
with,
they'll be like,
you know?
fucking Seth.
Yeah, and they'll be
Broke
like,
my
why did I
streak."
do that? Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll
broke
be like,
my-
I'm on this thing that sucks,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And in the moment to moment of it, I want them to have a good time and to think it's fun and funny.
This is a project that I've been really wanting to make for a very, very long time. Only thing is, the budget's a little bit up there. Some may say extreme. The scope is huge.
How do you act while you're carrying all that other stuff too?
I don't know. I try to just do it. Like
Yeah.
I am very much aware of what is happening as we're acting. Like I'm not lost in the scene by any stretch of the imagination. Like because I'm like hyper focused on whether or not it's going. The truth is, if it's going well,
Yeah,
it's easy for me to kind of get lost in it.
totally.
And if there's something off, it's like if you're acting in a scene and you're not directing it. If there's something off, I just keep going. Like
Yeah, it's not your job.
It's not my job, and I
Totally.
just keep going. But if you're directing as well, if something's off, if I just know, like, oh, that person should be standing there, but they're standing here,
Right.
I'm just like, none of this is going to work. And so, like,
Do you cut?
or I'll just, the other actors just see it. And I will just get a look on my face where they're like,
Where you're staring
they're
at
like,
their mark?
yeah, they're just like, he's gone. And like, or I'll just notice like the camera
Yeah.
didn't pan over quite fast enough. And I'll be like, oh, like their line wasn't on camera. And so none of this
Yeah, it's
is good
useless.
anymore. It's all useless now. And so I would feel bad for the people I was performing in the scenes with sometimes because I knew at times I didn't feel like I was the best scene partner all the time because I was so aware of what's happening. The other actors on the show claim that they couldn't tell as much as I felt as though
Right.
they could tell. But they would see that every once in a while I would just like get a look on my face where I'm just like drop out of the scene completely, basically. But I like it. To me, it's more fun to be directing the scene and in the scene and having written the scene than it is to just be acting the scene. And the fact that it's way harder, I like it.
Yeah.
Like
It's the tightrope.
Yeah.
It also felt like your entire cast was kind of ride or die in these things. Like
Yes.
everyone's same level of intensity,
Yes.
same level of emotion, same page. like-
Everyone's committed. And they
Yes.
loved it. And that was also one of the things that like I wanted is like I wanted to feel like I was a part of like a team. And like I wanted to feel like every day when we went to work, it was like all of us, the whole crew and the whole cast have to come together in one glorious like moment and pull this thing off. And that was something I'd experienced like here and there on movies, and it was something I'd felt like the Steve Jobs movie was the first time I had done anything remotely like that, where there's these long, elaborate shots and these long walk and talks and this Aaron Sorkin dialogue that you're like trying to get out properly.
And it has to be exactly right.
And it has to be
right?
exactly right. And it was the first time I made a thing where like everyone's really leaning in and everyone's engaged. And when you got it, it's like everyone's clapping and cheering. And it was like, again, it was an energy that like I really wanted to try to create in like a day-to-day basis.
You're describing like what my ethos of acting is.
Yeah.
Of film acting, why I think it's like special, is that the repeatability is an important skill and all that when you start doing all the other angles. But to me, like the magic part, the part where I'm like, oh fuck, we did it, is when you catch something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
When it's just the one that's a little different, or someone, there was a look in their eye where you're like, we caught it.
Yeah, you get something cool. And that's what was actually, I think the hardest part of the show is like, you know, we would do a lot of takes and like the first few takes was just terrible. And you would be like, this is never going to work. We've made a mistake. Like, we'll never get it. And then I'd say like 6 takes in, it starts to like work, but it's very rigid. And you feel everyone hitting their marks and saying their lines. And you're like, okay, it's like, everyone's technically doing this properly, but there's no life to it. And then I would start doing different stuff.
It's that.
I would start saying, I would change the timing, I would change the line a little bit, and then everyone would start changing the lines and the timing a little bit. And it was kind of like a jazz band in that like you knew kind of how many syllables you had and you could fill them any way you wanted, as long as it didn't affect the overall timing of like the piece.
Yes.
And people got so good at that it was like amazing, and it blew my mind. And I know very little about jazz, but I would still use the analogy of a jazz band
all the time.
constantly.
Yeah.
And as we were casting the show, I would tell the actors, I was like, I'm putting you in a jazz band.
Yes.
And I'm the drummer, and I will keep the rhythm, but when it's your turn, you fill the bars you have with something you think will work. And that's also something I would say to the actors, as I would be like, improvise if you want. Just know if it's bad, you fucked everything up, basically.
Yes.
And I think that's actually, I think you could probably relate to like, sometimes improv becomes like, how many funny things can I think of?
Yes,
and that
it's
becomes,
show-offy.
Like, it's show-offy. And what was great is this had improv, but I was like, don't show off. Like, instead of doing the 5 things to make me think you're great because you think of 5 great things, do the one thing you think I would actually pick.
Because they wanted to be, this is the ender.
Yeah, exactly. and I used to do that. I would see it's like comedically materialistic.
Yes, totally.
It's like a materialism when it comes to how many things can I come up with.
100%.
Which I used to, I think, really indulge in, and it was fun when you'd put it on YouTube and the gag reels, and you'd be like, "Oh, and look how many jokes we thought of."
But what good's it gonna do?
You can only use one. Exactly.
100%.
Show me your undergarment.
You know what?
Show me your undergarment.
This is getting weird, Gabby. This is getting weird. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave.
You made it
I'm gonna
weird.
leave.
Actually, you made it weird.
Hey, no.
Show me. Let me see your underwear.
No.
It's really interesting that you think of yours as a jazz band, and I think this is like the perfect highlight of the differences between our show.
Yeah.
We use a really similar thing, but we say orchestra.
Yeah.
Right?
Which it feels like.
Yes, it's the exact same concept, but we're playing like violins and slower, and Harrison's playing an oboe, you know?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And then like
the music of the shows.
The thing I really was like appreciating about your show as I was watching it was like the way it balances its intensely sad themes and ideas.
You emailed me that you were crying at the finale.
I emailed Jason this morning weeping with, well, honestly, it was much less sad. It ended, but thank God you prepared me. You were like, it's a real gut punch at the end in a way that I was like, oh,
you thought he was going on the train track? You thought he was going
to watch Brett Goldstein splat himself against a fucket train now? But,
we couldn't afford the splat.
Yeah, exactly. So you show up. It really navigates sadness, but it also is a very light show. Like, it struck me how deliberate it all felt all of a sudden, in that it's like I could see the conversations around like, how do we make this palatable? And how do we take these ideas that are the saddest things literally you could be talking about and present it in a way that people actually are looking forward to watching it on a week-to-week basis?
Well, it's prime James L.
Yeah.
Brooks, like terms of endearment,
Yeah.
broadcast news. Like, if I have an ethos about stuff, like to go back to that question I asked you, it's like I seem to have, I gather that I experience life harder than I need to. And I think that there's probably other people who are experiencing life hard. And it's like, how can you help people kind of laugh their way through some of these things?
For sure.
And so it starts out, you know, you start a guy at rock bottom. To me, that's actually like a very hopeful place to start.
For sure.
Because the only place you can go is up.
He's gotten much better throughout the show.
He's doing much better. But if the show starts on like, the show starts like, this is the best day of my life. I'm like, this ain't gonna go well.
Sad. No, it's true. And the fact that it's funny is what makes it amazing. Like it's like what makes it exceptional.
Crush on?
Want to be bros with?
Want a big spoon, little spoon with?
You guys want power walk together with tiny dumbbells?
Share a rotisserie chicken from Costco.
Great to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too.
This was a good chat.
Dude, it was the best.
Really good chat.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Shortly.
Yeah, shortly.
Great.
Nailed it.